As usual, we'll give it a few minutes for people to file in. Let me also make sure the event is started. Ooh. The event is now live.
No,
Is
it's
this
not.
text
It's
only
like
or voice too? Is there a check the voice chat? The dubious voice chat on the side of the screen. Awaken the hordes you have. Of course, of course. We do this every month. Get used to it. I was about to play Quasimorph, but Campfire started, so here I am. I mean, you can play something on the side while listening to us. We can be your background music, basically.
like what do you call them? Podcast.
Yeah, yeah, we're the podcast you have on in the background. All right. I'm just skimming through the responses to the feedback box for the update last week, which, by the way, does exist. We only have 3 responses, so if you have played this update, please check it out.
Here, I'll link
If you
it.
haven't played it, play it. If you have played it, go to the feedback box. Yeah. Somebody asks for a game rule to disable individual sounds. I don't think that's what a game rule would be for. Disabling individual sounds is called deleting the sound file from the game. Or just renaming it, actually. That'd make more sense. Somebody also asks for modifiable default disabled threshold. That'd be a bit more difficult just because of how individual ships can already modify their disabled threshold. So if we also had something to change the default, then how would we treat the ships that also modify their own? Because I imagine the intention is I want all ships in the game to have more health when they're disabled. It would actually probably make more sense to instead make it so that there's a game rule that says disabled ships take less damage, because then that's universal. Is the submunition on ship death change in the update? It is, yes. I didn't see it in the patch notes. It's in there. Let me check. It might be worded differently, but it's definitely in this update. Weapons can now be given the exclude submunition damage property so that they do not apply the damage of their submunitions if they hit a target. And projectiles can now spawn submunitions upon exploding or colliding. Those are the 2 changes I made for the ability to have a ship explosion create submunitions. The second one is the more important one. What you want to do is create a... When you're defining the ship, and you define the weapon node that determines the characteristics of the explosion, you're going to put a submunition there, and then indented under the submunition line, you're going to say spawn on as 1 token, so quotation mark, spawn on, and quotation mark, and then put explode, I think, is the name of the token. You'll want to check the wiki. But by telling it to spawn a submunition on explosion, a ship explosion, well, it's in the name, it's an explosion, so that then will cause submunitions to be spawned when the ship explodes. Fenzi says, I play only on stable updates, so I don't lose progress due to a bug or something. I will say, in terms of losing progress, we've never really had a bug that bad. Unless, well, if the game crashes, then you technically lose all your progress from whenever you last launched, but your save file wouldn't get corrupted. Not saying you need to now jump into the unstable updates if you don't want to, just that they're not that unstable. This isn't a bug report yet, but I've noticed that the sound engine seems to die after about an hour of playing. That's something that I've seen multiple people talk about. I don't think anybody's ever dug into what's actually happening. But it's also seemingly not something that happens to everyone. So it might be hardware dependent, which makes it a very difficult bug to fix, if that is the case. I don't know if any of the other devs have commentary on that. On sounds no longer working after extended periods of play. And the Mary Cat says after about an hour, which is not that long.
I don't remember the specifics, but I believe that happened to me when Tybe first did the whole refactor to the sound code. It happened, it wasn't an hour into the game, but it happened after I sat in, I think it was Messicat, and I just let sound play for a little bit. I don't know if you remember him fixing that. Yeah. But he did something to fix that particular case, and I didn't have the problem anymore, but it was similar in that it was after a certain amount of time in game, things started to just not stop playing sound.
Can we start with the questions?
What
Warp just wants to speed through this. I mean, technically, I haven't even done the introduction yet. Like, this is just give people time to show up. So I'll start with the introduction. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 33rd monthly Campfire chat. We do this the first Saturday of every month, typically, and it is just a place for people who play the game to hop into the voice chat or to the text channel and ask us questions. We do have a submission box that you can submit questions to through a Google form. If you are not going to be here, or if you want to make sure that your question gets answered, because we don't necessarily answer every question in the Discord chat. And we also will upload these. We're streaming on Twitch right now on my account, and we upload the replay to YouTube after the fact, just so that if you aren't able to catch these live or you show up late, you will be able to still see the whole thing. We are now in a period of time where the 0.11.1 update is out. If you play on the beta branch on Steam or GOG, or you download the latest releases off of GitHub, I hope you've been enjoying the updates. I will note there is one crash that can occur. If you die and then go back to the main menu and click the reload button, it will crash the game. Just don't click it. The reload button is new, so your muscle memory should make you go to the panel that has all your save files to load the most recent save file anyway. But if you've noticed the reload button and tried to start using that, it crashes the game. Warp wants to push a hotfix to fix it. I said, do we really need to push a hotfix to fix it? I think it's not the worst thing in the world, because like it's not like you're losing progress because you're dead anyway. But yeah, just don't click that button. The fix is already in the works. Just don't click it. The next update, a stable update that is just focused on bug fixes, is currently planned for the end of June 27th. But I would not be against releasing it the 30th of May if we happen to get a bunch of stuff in. Think of it like a preview of hardcore mode, says Warp. Yeah, because I am working on a hardcore mode. And there will be an option to crash your game. No, not really. Will future Endless Sky updates focus on closing loose ends with the story of certain factions? Or will it be more about enhancing and polishing what's already there? Both. The game's story is far from complete, and there's also a long list of stuff we want to do in terms of enhancing and polishing the gameplay. So both will occur at the same time, just because we have people who focus on one side of things and people who focus on the other. Is Tide here? Not that I see. All right, well, getting to the questions that Warp is so impatiently trying to get to that have been submitted. The first question, are there any plans to move the Endless Sky Wiki away from fandom? Warp says, go ask the people who maintain the wiki. Because if you don't know, we don't maintain the wiki. That is as the name implies, it's a fan wiki, the fandom. We don't maintain that. The only wiki we maintain is the wiki on GitHub, and that's just a documentation wiki for creating plugins. We don't have anything that's like, here's the outline of the story of all of these factions. So, talk to the wiki people. I know they have a Discord server somewhere. Warp says creating Endless Sky stuff in general, not just plugins. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all a plugin, if you think about it. Next question. If you haven't done it already, please add a honeypot channel to catch spammers. I actually don't really like the idea of a honeypot channel, to be honest. We usually catch the spammers like super quick anyway, right? And they seem to be dying down. This seems to just be like, every so often Discord will have a flare-up of scams and spam. This is a flare-up right now, and it's going to die down. A honeypot channel just seems like a good way for other people who aren't spammers and scammers to give us a headache, because they're like, oh, I got put in a timeout. Can you please let me out?
I mean, that's their fault.
I would just not let them out, says Warp, yeah. That's the other alternative, yeah.
If it becomes more of a problem, I could see us having a channel like that. But it happening like once every like 2 or 3 months isn't really that big of a deal. Or I guess it's been like once or twice the last month, but that's still not that often.
Lowry asks, is the Republic campaign meant to end at the same or very similar spot as the Free Worlds one, or will it be a different outcome if chosen? Similar. Are there any plans for more miscellaneous remnant quests, kind of like the Taily snowboarding one? If anybody works on them.
I was gonna say, if you meant like miscellaneous, do you mean like little like lore fluff ones, or do you mean like actual major lore quests, which is kind of like what the Patir ones have been?
Daz asks, could you please consider adding accessibility into the game so anyone can download it straight from yourselves? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Because Malkavian also asks, what do you mean? Just download it straight from yourselves. Download a version of the game with those features from us instead of someone else. That's... You have a problem with GitHub? And Steam and GOG? Steam, GOG, GitHub, these are the official channels to download the game. So it is straight from us. Daz is using someone else's modified build. You cannot do that, you know. We talked about this last time. I don't remember this. The version we provide doesn't have the features they're looking for. Okay, now I remember this. Like we said last time, is if somebody wants to work on it, then they can work on it and pull request the feature to the game, as long as it abides by the contributing guidelines.
Booga booga.
Saw, you answer the next question in the submission box.
And I've seen like a couple really questions down. I'm gonna guess they're from like the same people, but how do relay kill? As in, if I try and settle on their 2 planets, what would happen to me? How would I die? Physically, mentally, Guardians of the Galaxy, eco-stock consumption. The fun thing with old Eldritch space factions that you don't know much about is that you get to like come up with your own ideas. But if you want like a strict answer, depends on if you know what this is from. I imagine stuff like the Flood from Halo. Like you just become one with them. Like they like consume you, body, mind, and soul. Body, mind, and soul. It's like you just become part of a biomass, basically. So you land your ship down there, your ship's going into it. You go down there yourself, you're going into it. You're just going to die and become part of it. I'm gonna jump ahead and answer the other one real quick. What kind of anthropomorphic animal are the relay? You will find out someday.
Hint, they're not.
I mean, they are, but they're not. But it's some weird third thing.
Yeah. Okay, so I accidentally skipped over one. One of the core ships going to have their names changed to match their display names. Signed Ziproot, person who made the mistake of making them different. It's unlikely to ever be the case. People will already have these ships captured, so they will be in their save files, and their save files will point to the current names of the images. If we change it now, then either the ships that people have in their save files currently will become invisible, or we'll just have to duplicate the asset, which is something that actually already happened with the Gascraft. If I've said before, if you watch videos about the development and behind the scenes stuff of most other video games, there's a lot of video games where the name of something internally is not the name that the player sees on the front end. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but like, just imagine a map or an enemy variant where the developers start working on the game and they give the map a code name or the enemy a code name. And they know, like, hey, further down the line, we're going to give this thing a different name that the players see. But for now, we're just going to use the name that we come up with as like a placeholder. Then that placeholder sticks around. So when they're developing the game, they still have to use the placeholder name or like the internal name, perhaps. But the players see something different. It's kind of the same way with the images at this point, where the images for some things have a different name than the display name because we decided to change the display name. Also, Doom points out, to be honest, if we want to add support for other languages, it'll probably mean decoupling names in the files from display names at a more fundamental level. So yeah, like, the problem would become even worse, technically. Warp says the images are world ship A, B, C, D, E, and F. While the ship identifiers are modeled after the Cestor ship names, and the display model names are based on various planets in Old Korth space. Sure says you should put me in charge of Korth names.
Pass.
Pass. Has there been any ideas or plans to continue the deep storyline? I don't know. I mean, yeah. But who knows when that'll happen. If there's ever a question of, are there plans to do ... in the story, the answer is usually yes. If it's no, then it's just a matter of somebody has to write it. The development of the story of this game is very all over the place, if you haven't noticed. It is literally just a matter of whoever feels like doing anything at any time. Are there any plans to continue maintaining Endless Sky? Yes, there are plans. Are there any plans to delete Endless Sky? Not for me.
Question here, real quick, because it's the only other one here right now. I've heard people complaining that all the Archons are the same. Are y'all open to custom Archons? They are custom right now. They have like slightly different sprites and they have different names, and I mean they're unique to each area that you find them in, unique personalities, stuff like that. So what do you mean by custom? Yeah.
Yeah, there are already multiple Archon sprites. The differences are subtle, but they are different. Doom says there are 3 right now. I assume the suggestion is to have each one be unique.
But how?
Well, as in, there are more than 3 Archons in the game, but there are 3 sprites. I presume the suggestions being made here is that for there to be 1 unique sprite for each Archon.
Maurice says they meant more so obvious differences like weapons and styles. I don't think. Do they really need different weapons though?
I mean, it could be interesting, but it would be a lot of work.
Okay. Boom, Kasei, jump scare. Yeah, they're not really like. They're major plot point entities, but they're not really like ships you play around a lot of the gameplay with. So, I mean, I don't know.
I wouldn't be against it if somebody went and did it, but I'm not going to plan on doing it myself. I'll tell you that. Like, I don't think it's a high priority thing, but it's like, oh, that'd be interesting if we did do it. Because then you would have like a degree of individuality to each Archon that I think would actually tie well into the story of the Archons.
They probably should still have like antimatter based weapons. They're all kind of like a white projectiles kind of deal, maybe. Like not like crazy. Like I don't think an Archon would have like fighters or something, for example. Probably just different projectile based weapons.
I mean, why not?
You really want an Archon fighting with fighters?
Maybe.
I think they're beyond the concept of fighters, because anything, if you do like a fighter with an Archon, people are going to assume that that's like a child or something, and that's not.
Small gun.
Like that'll mess with stuff with the void sprite stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the small shot. I mean, I don't know.
Azure says we should remove the augmented Archon outfits, and Doom says agreed.
Weren't those added so Archons had less firepower? Was that specifically for that Remnant mission?
That was to make it so they had more firepower.
Yeah, because the firepower they have when they're not using the augmented outfits wasn't changed. They never got at no point
it was the
firepower
opposite.
get less.
The augmented ones are just like 10 times stronger than the unaugmented ones.
Well, Doom, as a representative balance looker, are Archons supposed to be broken? Or are they supposed to be like acceptable for their tier?
I mean, I don't think there's any point in them having the 10 times stronger whatchamacallit, the big gun on the front, anti-matter cannon, that does, oh yeah, it does like 500,000 damage. Nothing other than an Archon has that many hit points. I don't think there's any point in those being there. They were strong enough without them. They're very tough. They've got, enormous amounts of health, enormous amounts of regen, all these different very powerful weapons. I don't think they needed those on top of them, and I don't think they needed the silly, oh yeah, well, when they die, they don't actually die, they come back thing either. That's my stance on the matter.
Who knows? We could say maybe they are dying. They're just going to the left. They're gone forever, and just make them not respawn anymore.
Pulling up the initial war quest that buffed them. These augmented versions do significantly more damage than their normal equivalents. The damage amounts of the Ember tier and its comparative effectiveness compared to the antimatter cannon and the Archons drew attention to the fact. Okay, I'm just going to stop there. I'm just going to stop there.
To justify buffing the Remnant, of course.
The Remnant are becoming too strong, and therefore we have to make everything else stronger so the Remnant can be as strong as they are. Classic Remnant slander, says Siriday, yeah.
I'm wondering if the Ember tier is meant to be like Archon adjacent, like drag technology or something. But yeah, I mean,
it isn't slander if it's true.
the proposal was the Archons weren't usually using full strength till they were actually in danger. Well, the problem with that, I know you're not agreeing with that, Warp, is when an Archon is actually in danger in Endless Sky, we're already past the single-player story balancing that the game usually has. The player probably has like 500 ships to be able to do that. So
it takes an insane amount of firepower to take down an Archon as is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be fine with removing the augmented weapons. I'd rather keep the respawning though, to be honest. It seems to me it's more of like a get rid of one or the other, not both situation, and I'd rather augmented weapons go. You don't understand. You need to put lore in everything, says Warp. How does the use limited ammo danger assessment work anyways? So there's two conditions where at least one of the conditions needs to be met. Either the ship is low on health. I forget the exact threshold. I think the threshold is actually a game rule. It might be like if the ship is below 50% health or something like that. Or if if the strength of the enemies in the fleet is more than double the strength of the allies in the fleet, then the frugal mechanic will kick in as well to allow secondary weapons to be used. Well, Legendary M says, yep, the Remnant are too strong. Let's buff their rivals, the Korth, up. Wait, the Korth are really strong. We have to buff the Remnant back. Okay. Anybody here play Helldivers too? Because that's exactly what Helldivers has been doing for the past couple of years now. Buff the players. Oh, the players are too strong. Buff the enemies. Oh, that people are complaining that they feel too weak. Buff the players. Now the players are too strong. Buff the enemies.
You don't understand. We need 500 more heavy armor enemies.
Yeah.
500
Triple the durable damage right now. Oh, our mechs are too weak. Let's double the mech health, but not actually. The arms didn't increase in health at all, by the way. They went from 350 to 600, but they also removed the 250 constitution, which means they had 600 health. Now they still have 600 health on the arms. I won't get into all of it, but yeah. Helldivers is a mess in terms of their balancing. Or it says, since the Ember tier is doing so much damage, making the Archon seem less powerful, was given a reason for adding these. If we're going to remove them, it follows the Ember tier should also be nerfed. Yes. That would be a good thing to do. Helldivers 2 is several years old now. I'm wasting away. of old age. It's only 2 years, I think. It came out February 2024. So it's just over 2 years old, if I recall correctly. The Remnant have a really strong anti-missile, so the Core need an even stronger missile to overcome it, instead of just not spending resources on missiles and forcing the Remnant to spend resources on anti-missile out of caution. Yeah. 500 heavy units, yeah. 500 cigarettes. All right, we're getting more submissions, so I'll go back to the submission box. There's an empty question. I don't know how somebody did that. It might just be like a space.
And
No,
this one is
nothing.
separate questions, so we should go one by one.
Yeah. There's one below or above this, though. What is the most complex conversation chain you ever worked on? What made it so complex? One of the deep missions I worked on. I think it's the deep scientist missions when you're like investigating the Remnant. There's a lot of different ways you can approach that. So it's like one big conversation with a bunch of different branches in it. So the complexity was just making sure that all of these possible ways you could approach the mission were accounted for, and that you didn't get redundant text in any of those approaches, but you also got all the text you needed to get, all the conversation you needed to get. I ended up like having to draw it all out, I think, to keep everything in mind. And that is why we typically don't do things that complex, just because of how much work it is.
Me looking at Gagno missions.
Yeah. Anyone
I'm
else?
trying to keep
Question mark?
Well, for me, like I said, it's Gagno missions because I'm sitting here trying to keep track of if you shot at them at this point in the intro, if you like with the Sin, it used to be a lot more involved, but it's like right now, oh, the Sin meet with you, and they're like trying to like gauge like you as a human being, like, oh, do you respond to imagery? Oh, do you respond to gestures? Do you respond to getting shot at? And it's like all these different things in the intro missions I'm keeping track of throughout the rest of the story, and then other missions are like, oh, did you fire at the Gagno earlier? Did you like? It's not one extremely complex conversation, but it's like the entirety of Gagno content. I'm not gonna keep doing it like that, but there's too many things I'm trying to keep track of. So
Dude
that's
says
fun.
he's working on a Wanderer mission that's complex. Okay.
Yeah. And then as I saw earlier, said the what was it? Not checkers.
Avgi Space Chess.
Yeah, that one. That one was like when I was reviewing the PR, that was pretty involved.
All right.
That's just content, though. I'm sure Warp could like say like, "Oh, the hardest code thing I've ever worked on," and be like some really crazy thing.
Code's not difficult. It's easy.
Wow.
No. I
That's
don't even
crazy.
know.
I should start coding then.
I could skim through my.
I'm gonna add a fourth dimension to the game. That's right. I skipped 3.
Going straight to the 4th dimension. A lot of the more difficult code pull requests are more tedious than they are like hard to do. I have too many pull requests. I can't like skim through them to find something.
Anyone else? Jim, is it the mission? I think it is.
Dun, dun, dun. Maurice asks, is there a setting for weapons to always shoot in a consistent even spread? Like the typical 3-shot, 1 center, 130 degrees left, 1 same distance on the right. If there are plans, and if not, are there plans? That would just be use submunitions. You can create a projectile. I mean, if you're saying fire 1 shot and you get 3 projectiles that are 30 degrees left, 0 degrees, 30 degrees right, then you could do submunitions with that. if you're saying I want a weapon where the first shot is 30 degrees to the left, the second shot is in the middle, the third shot is 30 degrees to the right, and then it goes back to the left again, you can't do that right now. But if you want 3 projectiles the exact same time, submunitions. Under the submunition node, when you're writing it in the data file, you can give it an angle that it comes out at. And that will be a set angle. Instead of giving an accuracy of 30 degrees, you would give a set angle of 30 degrees or negative 30 degrees, depending on the direction you want it to move. Check the wiki. It should have all that mentioned there. I know this is a crazy ask, but will players ever be able to capture space stations or planets? Unlikely.
No.
Yeah. There's plugins where you can do that. Ursa Polaris. Obligatory mention. But we will not be adding that to the vanilla game, most likely.
The player is not an army.
Yeah.
You can get an army of ships, but that's not,
For now.
you know. I was gonna go through these next few. List of questions by one person here, but we're gonna go through one at a time.
Hogging.
What is the next Alien storyline / major content drop that's gonna arrive? At this time, I would expect the next Successors mission to be the most likely thing merged up regarding that kind of stuff. Yes, hello, Derry. I noticed Derry was here. That being said, it might be a minute before we get to reviewing that PR. I do want to start getting to it somewhat soon for it to get into next Unstable. If you are coming in from like an update previously, the tier stuff did just drop, so we're still having some major additions every few updates or so. Other than that, everything else is kind of like it's out there, it's getting worked on, we're not sure yet. Some people are busy in real life, stuff like that. Either Successors or something could hit. Yeah, Derry and Becca are the ones in the spotlight right now. If you look at the history of Endless Sky, there's always like a lot of major content focused in one area, and then that kind of dies down, and then another area starts to come back up, and then that kind of dies down. So like right now, the south of the map is in the spotlight in terms of content, with the graveyard and the I know it's the Twilight for the Abgi. Isn't it called something else for Successor Space? Or is it still Twilight?
You even
Outside the
play the
Twilight?
game?
Oh, Tangled Shroud, isn't it?
No.
What game? Not inside, but beyond it? Oh, okay, like right outside of it. Okay. But yeah. The next one is, what's the way / direction you think
The game.
I'm gonna assume this, yeah, I'm gonna assume that means game can improve the most?
Warp says go back to 0.9.10.
Warp hates modern Endless Sky.
Go back to before MZ disappeared, he says.
Back before Warp even was able, a dev, and was able to touch the game files as much as he does now.
Yeah, Warp ruined it. Just all fingers pointed at him. To answer seriously, I think that one of the biggest improvements is really just small quality of life changes here and there. Some maybe not so small. I know one that I would like to get, that I have liked to get for a while now, but is actually closer, is something like the selectable control schemes that Zobes is working on right now. That very, very likely will be done by the end of the year. Probably within the next couple. I mean, I'm actually thinking of just merging it for the stable update, even though it's like technically more of an unstable update type of change. but I don't expect it to be buggy enough to be a problem, especially if we merge it within the next couple weeks here, like this month. Then we have all next month to test it before the release actually comes out, just in case there are any issues with it. Aside from that, another change that's also being worked on by Zobes, but is also like not small by any means, is the in-game plugin downloader. A big part of the way that Endless Sky was designed and continues to be designed is just modifiability with plugins. And we have a lot of people who love making plugins and a lot of people who love playing plugins. But there's also a lot of people who play the game who probably aren't even on Discord. They don't look through the things on Steam. They're just kind of, playing the game whenever a new update comes out and they aren't even really aware that plugins are a major thing. Although maybe that's less the case now, just because we did add the in-game plugin menu where you can see what you have installed. So maybe some people saw that and were like, oh, that's interesting, let me go investigate. But there's probably still some people who are like, I don't know where to find things, so I'm just not even going to bother with this. But if the plugin downloader is in the game itself, that just really opens up the replayability and things that anybody can do with the game. And it'll also probably lead to an increase in interest in plugins. You'll have more people trying to make plugins. You'll have more interest in the plugins that do exist. So that'll probably be a pretty big improvement just to the community aspect of the game once that's in.
Doom stole my idea. Doom says he thinks expanding story content and adding new stories and finishing existing ones has the biggest effect in terms of improving the game.
Yes.
But it's also the direction that has the most work.
Yeah.
I was going to say, my immediate thought in my head was people writing stuff finally, but that's not something we're going to be like, you're forced to do that or there's a deadline because,
yeah,
it's a volunteer project.
Like you said with how the game, like, over the years, they'll be focused in one area, then focus on another area. I feel like, at least personally, I feel like story is one of those areas we've kind of been slacking on for the longest time.
Yeah.
We do get missions here and there, but there's so much more that can be done with the story of the game that just isn't being done. And I would like to do it, but I'm also the guy who's like focusing on a majority of the code-based stuff. So like the control screens and the plugin in-game plugin library that I just talked about, like that's the stuff I'm trying to focus on right now. After a certain point, I'll hit a point where I'm fairly happy with where the mechanics of the game is at, and I probably will jump back into the story things. Because if you guys don't know, I started as like a story-focused, content-focused developer. And then I learned C++. And it was just over from there.
Everybody point your fingers at Derp because when people say there needs to be more story in the game, that guy's got a lot of story in the game. But that's not to say that there hasn't been like recent pushes for more progression in story, because there has been, I know, a group of contributors working on outlines for the Republic campaign that we've been going back and forth with. There are contributors working on some pirate areas. There are contributors like Derry working on their factions. So there's like a lead towards more progress. It's just having actual more content in the game. That's the big leap still. Yeah. Which dev has been working on the game the longest that is still active, Derpy?
I've been around for like a decade. I think there are some people who have been around as long as me, or like a similar amount of time. But in terms of who's been a dev the longest, that would be me.
Maybe MZ. He's still a dev in our hearts.
How long before mine is your first contribution? Let me check. Because I made my account March 6th, 2016. And my first pull request that got merged was May 24th, 2016. I had opened a pull request in... Okay, here's... My first pull request was to add mineable asteroids to the game. but I did it entirely through content. I didn't like add any new mechanics to the game, and it sucked. It sucked so bad that it convinced MZ to add mechanics for an actual mineable asteroid system to the game. So you're welcome for that. Doom says, I think I started playing the game, the update, before Derpy did, but it was a lot longer before I actually contributed anything to it. Yeah, we definitely have people who've been around longer than I have. I started playing in version 8.10. 0.8.10 is when I first started playing. And I think 0.8.11 came out like a week or two after. Because I downloaded the game in December of 2015, but I didn't start playing it. Because I think I just like I was looking for free games on Steam. Because I was just like a high school student at the time. Yeah, so I probably downloaded it when 0.8.9 was out. I played when 0.8.10 was the latest version, because I didn't play the game for like a month, or until a month later. Because yeah, end of January is 0.8.11. And then I played like all throughout February. And then made my GitHub account in March, after I like did everything in the game and realized I could contribute to it. Is there an actual game owner? Not really at this point. Warp says yes, all like money goes to me. So the original creator is MZ, Michael Zonizer. But at this point, there's no like single owner, because there's 4 people who have the highest permission level on GitHub. Like the owner permission level. That would be MZ, myself, Hector, and Peter. But like, we also could all like kick each other from the organization. Like, that's kind of funny how that works. So really, the owner is whoever is the most tyrannous. Nah.
Steam page, it's just kind of between all of us.
Yeah.
I can't pinpoint, Doom, how long ago I played. I just remember, like, way back when I found the game after growing up on EV, I made a request in the Google forums when Endless Sky was just in Google forums at the time. I don't remember how old that is. For fighter-based up sounds. And I think it was either MCO or some other person back then that said that's not a priority. And then guess what? About 5-7 years later, I put the sounds in. Not all of you making me feel old. Here comes Warp.
Just working at Endless Sky Incorporated, providing good insurance policies. I have an actual job. If I didn't, I would be doing a lot more. Like, the progress on this game would be a lot quicker. There was a period of time that I considered opening like a subscribe star or a Patreon to take donations so I could work on the game full time. Ultimately decided not to do that. Got a real job. Now I make like a good amount of money, and I still work on this game in my free time. And how are you just 7 years older than me? Question mark. I started working on the game when I was 16. That's how. Like, this game is one of the big reasons why I am a software engineer for my actual job. When I was figuring out what I wanted to do for college, because I knew I was going to go to college, it was either going to be engineering, probably like civil engineering, or it was going to be software engineering, something computer science related. And I kind of realized, like, I already have experience with software engineering just because of working on this game. And a bunch of my friends were going that direction too. So I was like, guess I'll do that. It was not a bad decision, I'll tell you that. It's been good for me. if I give you $35 million, will you speedrun game development? I don't think you need to give me that much. Give me $1 million. Like, that's enough. $1 million, let that sit in the bank, and just the interest alone would be good enough.
No. He's done something. Give him the extra $1 million, and then we'll turn Endless Sky into this huge franchise.
Yeah. Give me 35 million, and then I'll use that 35 million, keep some of it for myself, and then take the rest to invest in the game. You should open a donation page, I think, because I'm sure people would be willing to donate. Here's the problem. How would we split the donations? Because we have, like, let's see, how many developers do we have listed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 13 people with developer permissions, plus Hector with owner permissions. So we have like 14 people who are like in a role that you might say like, oh yeah, that would be where the donations go to, but not everyone is equally active. So like, do we try and split based off of activity, or is it just an even split? If it's an even split, and if somebody's gone for a year, does it really make sense to still give them the donations? What about people who aren't developers but still contribute a massive amount of time to the game? Do they get a split? What about somebody who just comes along and fixes one thing and then disappears? Like, do they get a split? It would just be too much of a headache to figure out how that is done. That's why when I talked about opening a donation page, it was going to be explicitly, these are the donations for SirDerpyHorse. That's only who it's going to. It's not going to anyone else, because then it was going to be like clear that it's only going to this one person. But
yeah, so we prefer you just donate to charities.
if you really wanted to spend money on the game, then sorry, you can't.
Yeah, let us be humble.
Yeah. Just the biggest thing you can do is spread the game through word of mouth. Tell your friends, tell your family, whatever it might be. Talk about the game in comment sections on YouTube, because I see that sometimes. I know Joke will see that sometimes. Like, I'll see a random, like, there'll be a game that's like another like open source like space game, and somebody in the comments will be like, "Hold on, this reminds me of Endless Sky," and I'm like, "Who are you? I've never seen you." And like every so often, I'll see like an Endless Sky related video pop up that gets like several thousands of views, and there's people in the comment section like, "Oh man, I played this game years ago. I love to see it still going." Every person is paid in new lines of code per pull request divided by 100. Well. I've got a few pull requests that are like thousands of lines of code, so I would be eating up most of that. I think I actually did. I was curious, so I wrote a script a few weeks ago now. Or maybe it was a couple months ago, but it goes through the entire repository. It Git blames the whole repository. It sees who wrote every line, and then gives you a breakdown of how many lines each person wrote and the percentage of the total lines. MZ is still at the top. He still has a majority, he has a plurality of the lines, but I think he's only like a third of the lines of code in the game are still his, untouched from anyone else. Then I'm right below him. And I also split it by content and source code. And in both cases, I'm second place, MZ's first place. I'm at like 20%, I think. He's at 30%-ish. And then like everyone else is below the two of us.
Yeah, spend money because like you guys see something like using a 3D printer to print a 3D model in the sky spaceship for yourself, like what that one person did. I think a few people have done that. There was like several years ago, one person did like 3D prints of some ships like the Kestrel and I think the Bactrian and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know somewhat recently someone did what was it? I think it was also a Kestrel. But there's been like 1 to 3 people, maybe more, who hasn't even talked in the server, who 3D printed a couple little fun ship models. Just don't be selling them. We'll come after you. Somehow. No.
No, it's fine. They're fine to sell as long as you provide attribution and you say like this is from or inspired by Endless Sky, like you're fine. Also, the GPL 3 license is to use the terms used by the my boss at work. It's infectious, if you use something that's GPL 3 and create a work based off of it, then your work also has to be GPL 3, to my understanding.
Mhm.
So it has to remain open source.
Yeah, there's cases where I've seen some artwork of ours in other games, other open source games or small time things.
All right, I'm realizing
That
we never
means,
even finished this set of
yeah, I was
questions.
gonna get back to that.
I really, really like spinal mount weapons. Any more of those coming soon? Probably not.
No, you're banned. No.
You're right. Spinal mounts are intended to be rare, because they're like super powerful weapons, typically.
Will it happen again? Maybe. It's not. I wouldn't say no, but only a couple more times at most.
Yeah, there won't be a lot of them. And then last
Yeah.
one from this person. Bit of a weird question. Do you think eventually, sometime in the future, whether it be a year from now or when the game's development is over, will the player ever get legitimate access to Quarg, Drac, and Pug tech? Drac tech, definitely no. Pug tech, unlikely, but not impossible. And if you do, it would be like a subset of Pug tech that they intentionally give to you, for some purpose. Morph says you already have access to Pug tech, yeah. And then, yeah, legitimate access to Pug tech, just steal it from them. That's legitimate. They're combatants in war. And then Quarg tech, again, same with the Pug, like maybe, maybe not. These would have to be like very far down the line of a story, and you probably only get a limited set of their technology. It wouldn't be like now you have access to every single ship and outfit they have. Just
Yeah.
because the intention of the Quarg, Pug, and Drac is like, this is the ceiling. This defines how strong everything else below it can be. And since it is intended to be the strongest stuff, if you ever got access to it, it would trivialize the rest of the game even more than you can already trivialize it by having a massive fleet. Just because, like, you would start to get to the point where, like, a handful of ships could trivialize everything.
Mhm.
Doom says obtaining Quarg tech will become more legitimate in the sense that looting it from them during the Heliot campaign is more legitimate than doing it of your own accord. The Quarg
Yeah.
will not sell you their tech, though. Yeah, that seems like a likely approach to things.
Of all three of those options, the Pug make the most sense just to cause chaos. But as Maricat says, there's a mod to do that. That's probably the best place you're going to find that. And then you can very easily just add a text file that says sale outfitter Quarg Pug Drac stuff. There's not really like reason why we need to like squeeze the availability for that kind of tech into the vanilla game at the very end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That and not to be the anti-fun police, but some stuff simply being out of your reach forever and ever isn't uncommon in video games. I guarantee you, almost every game you play, there's at least some item, weapon, ship, what have you, whatever game you play, that you just can't get. It looks cool, or you see an NPC use it, or it's a boss's weapon, and you just can't use it. And that's not because, oh no, you just can't have that. Screw you. But it's more of like a design standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because of that. It's interesting to interact with, to see. And like the others are saying, you can still get Pug Tech, you can still get Quark Tech. Drac Tech is just out of the question, sorry.
Yeah, Maurice says having Drac tech would just be kind of dumb. Oh, yes, your guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, realize that, I mean, spoiler alert, if you plug your ears if you don't want to hear this.
No, don't tell me, shut up.
The Drac are like, the ships are semi-biological. So the outfits are like a part of a living being. You wouldn't be able to individually take one off and use it on your ship.
And for what it's worth, the same things with the relay. So no fancy relay weapons.
Duo asks, I'm not sure if it's outright stated in the game since it's been a while since I played, but was it outright stated when the many nation states made way for the United Human Republic?
Is that on the timeline?
There's a timeline on GitHub. I don't know if actually there's a mission in the game that is a anniversary of the Republic, and that mission will definitely tell you when. If you want a year, the Republic is formed in the year 2730. So about 300 years before the start of the game. It wasn't the case that Earth became a republic and then like a united republic and then colonized the stars. No, what happened was you just have Earth, then we colonize the moon and Mars. First it's Mars, then it's the moon. Then we send sublight speed colony ships to Alpha Centauri, and we colonize Alpha Centauri. Then the hyperdrive is discovered, and from there it expands out. Those initial colonization efforts, Mars, the moon, Alpha Centauri, there's nothing stating that those were like unified efforts across the whole planet. That was probably like individual countries and maybe like groups of countries working on things. But then, as the different planets get colonized, you get companies that start funding space colonization, and the companies start to, once it gets to the point where the groups of planets that have been colonized by these companies have more power than Earth, there's a period of time where it's basically like the corporations are governments. And the Republic is kind of the end of that era where the corporations some corporations start to band together, form like something that looks more like a legitimate government. And then those legitimate governments come together to form the Republic. If that's what you were getting at.
Yeah, a better question would be, when did the Syndicate form?
Control F, Syndicate. 2660. The Syndicate is beginning to gain power as it merges with smaller corporations in the area, in the core. So that's actually towards the tail end of when the individual corporations had power. You get the Syndicate forming from a group of smaller corporations. The Syndicate formed from Derpy wrote the Syndicate campaign outline. Yeah, we'll go with that.
The next question is, what sparked the AI ban in human space, and why is it now illegal? The game was made before that blew up, so...
Source. Who said AI is illegal? No one ever said that. If the question is why isn't there AI and human space in the game, as Sog just said, the game was started in like 2014, 2015. All this AI stuff is only like 3 years old. We're not going to change the whole story of the game to now incorporate the fact that 7 years after the game was started, LLMs became a thing.
I hope they're calling out the deep stuff.
Isn't it stated to be illegal? I don't know. I didn't review that mission.
Maybe it's a deep mission.
The one thing that is banned that is stated as such is genetic engineering on humans. And that is banned because of the Alpha Wars. But there's not really much commentary on artificial intelligence in human space. Except on that one world in the far north. Azure says Endless Sky really is a early 1990s, or 1990s to early 2000s story. Yeah. Legendary M asks, isn't there also a nuke ban? Which is doubly serious when they get brought into use in the closing stages of the Human Civil War, yes. All right. Final submitted question. And then we'll probably get close to wrapping up here as we are over an hour. Which faction, species, or storyline do you like the most? And we'll open this up to everyone, not just the devs. Anybody answer. What's your favorite storyline in the game? Or your faction or species? Just answer all three. Wanderers, says Magma. Liv says Wanderers. Azure says Watchers. Okay. Sog says the Keyboard Smash by Warp in the future. Doom likes the Heliarchs. Magma says favorite species is the Korth. Okay, so the first answer was the favorite storyline is the Wanderer storyline. Okay. Warp likes humans, just all of them. Dewo says Wanderers and Avgi. Liv says Heliarchs close second. M says Corsestor. Love the aesthetic, the drone ships, the concept of automation and industrialization. Azure says I hate the Avgi. Eyeball says Wanderers and Avgi are neat. Sirday says the future Syndicate campaign that I steal from Derpy because it'll mean I've written it. But probably the Remnant because I love having a fleet of Mergansers, yeah. Successors. And worst line is anything except Ghosts 1. Becca says, I love the Avgi. Their ship sprites look so cool. Industrialization is really cool, but should be invented in real life. Durzai says, Shiragi, absolutely favorite story in the entire game. That's actually, that's definitely up there. The Emerald Sword. That's definitely up there in terms of best stories, in my opinion. And not just because I worked on it. The most of that storyline was written by Karimi, / Karirari / whatever she's going by these days. Not in the server? Okay. At least not that I can find. The names keep changing. But I think it was the second the mission where you board the Emerald Sword was initially a lot smaller. And I was like, hey, I feel like this could be a lot more impactful than it is right now. Like, if you really expanded upon it. Can I write it? And Creamy was like, yeah, sure. I was like, all right, cool. So, the mission where you board the Emerald Sword, and I think when you also land on the planet, was initially written by Karimi, and then I greatly expanded upon it. And I really enjoyed how it came out. Were you the one who wrote the Dragon Flame as a gamma ray laser? If so, we need to fight. No, I don't think it was me. I don't recall that. I'm a high enjoyer, by the way, in terms of factions / species.
Yeah, my actual answer is the Remnant, but that might have been partly because they were just getting out of the game when I first actually started getting into things. When,
the Mary
MG
Cat
was around.
says, I crumbled into dust when I realized that there might be people picking up Endless Sky now and playing the There Might Be Riots missions and not get what band that's referencing. I didn't. And here's another thing too. I didn't play Escape Velocity. So when I came to this game, it wasn't like, oh wow, a game that's just like Escape Velocity. Like, no, I was like, oh, this is a cool game. I've never played something like this before.
I'm genuinely I know it's impossible to find, but I'm genuinely curious what portion of our audience is an EV player base. I know it's a lot, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's a definitely a decent number of old heads who played Escape Velocity and then found Endless Sky. But there's also a lot of people who just never even heard of Escape Velocity outside of in
Yeah.
reference to this game.
I think that partly has to do with the internet blowing up, because EV was really popular because it was one of the very first like notable computer games, like 2D space games, and Endless Sky was made around the time like Steam started blowing up, and internet started connecting the world together more, stuff like that.
People probably played it on their Macs at their schools. You know what we played on the Macs at our school? CSGO. Or no, it was CS Source. That's what it was. Okay, this is a funny story. I took an electronics class in high school. It was like, you learn about how electricity works, and you do some residential wiring and breadboarding and soldering. It was a pretty fun class. I took the class just because I was interested in the topic, the subject of the class. It turns out a lot of people took the class because they heard the teacher for the class just did not care and let the kids play CS Source on the computers in the back of the room, just all class. Lo and behold, the year that I get there, it's a different teacher. The old teacher retired, and it was a new guy. So you got a bunch. It was like the very first class. The teacher was like, "So I know that a lot of you took this class because you heard some things about how the class was run before. I'm gonna tell you now, it's not how it's gonna be now." So like a bunch of people dropped the class in the first week. Most of us stuck around, and then later in the year, like there would be times when we would finish our work early because it was like a lab period where we would have to work on something with our hands, and then we finish that, and people would be like, "Yo, can we play? Since we finished early, can we play on the computers?" And the teacher was like, "All right." So we'd have like 10 minutes at the end of the class where people would play a CS Source match.
Someone threw a question last minute. Interesting one. Weird question. Due to the way that time passes in the game with each jump and takeoff, as you play regularly... Oh, there's more than one question now. Your space journey technically takes several years, if not decades, and yet the player doesn't slow down or anything due to age, and text event with NPCs feels like that happened just weeks ago. I know it's impossible to account for age in the mountains of text within the game. It is. But I'd like to know if there's perhaps an in-universe explanation for longevity of characters. Do we know if medicine advanced age became less troublesome or things like that? Warp says it's the future.
So I will say, if you are like focusing on the story, the events of the story can take place over the course of only a few years. You probably could have, like, I know there are people who have save files that have been going for a long time, that like their save file is several decades into the future, but that is not the norm. I don't think. The expected norm is that you're playing the game at a pace where the story only unfolds over the course of a few years. So, given the fact that it is only a few years, within the span of a decade at most, I don't think the story really needs to account for the length of time that has passed.
Yeah.
Also,
There's probably some like future stuff, like medicine involved, but not
yeah.
crazy.
Text events with NPCs feel like they happened just weeks ago. I mean, again, if you're doing a mission and like you're focusing on finishing the mission and you're not like spending a year between finishing missions, then usually it is only like a few weeks because, like you say, each jump is a day. If your mission destination is 10 jumps away, then it's 10 days away. So in that case, yeah, it has only been a week or two. since the last time you spoke with somebody. And it would
His
just
little
be it would be such a headache to like every time you start a mission have to write down somewhere in the game like, okay, you started the mission at this date, and then when you land at the destination have to check like, has it been a day, has it been a week, has it been a month, has it been a year, has it been multiple years, and then have like the characters react to how long it took you to do something every single time.
way too much.
Yeah, I feel like it would detract from the game more than it would add.
Yeah, it's along the lines of things like crew and stuff. We just keep it simple, so there's not a billion things to keep track of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I probably was gonna say no.
It was more than 1,000 years in the future, I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah, it does. Like in reverse though, I will say it also like might seem a little jarring when like you land and take off from a planet. That's such a quick action that you do in the game. Like by the time you're like at least an hour into the game, that's just like it's just automated in your head. But that's 24 hours right there. Like you went down to the planet. You probably ate something. You probably talked to some people. You probably slept and then you took off. And all like game mechanic wise, that was a whole day. And I think sometimes, but people, especially myself, like don't really like internalize that.
You return to Rand with a surveillance pod, but the only trace of Katya and I as you've confined are local government records of their deaths of natural causes. 5, 6, 7 skull emojis. Yeah. All right, next question. After finishing all the campaigns, if First Last was arrested in human space for something minor, would their connections be able to get them off depending which faction arrested them? I mean, I don't know. At that point, you're probably rich. Just pay a fine. You'd get out. Yeah, Legendary M, you're definitely thinking of the Second Common Era plugin that I had an idea for and never actually did anything. Like, that never became a plugin. It was literally just a set of ideas.
Looks at Warp and his idea for a past plugin. Like old human space. Oh, not your no, not your faction. Another question just arrived. What are the devs' opinions on variable cost hyperlanes, i.e., some may take more than a day to use?
Unlikely.
If it's a feature request, probably not, because everything's built. The entire game is built around one day.
It wouldn't be hard to add as a feature, but in terms of using it in the vanilla game, no.
Yeah, but like, that's such a niche thing to add even as a feature we don't use, though.
I mean, it's niche maybe, but not difficult. And the fact that it is not difficult just means like I probably would add it if I felt like it. If for no other reason, then it's one of those things that I think escape velocity lets you do. Right?
Escape velocity does it based on your ship's mass and size.
Yeah.
It doesn't do it like the hyperlane itself is a different size hyperlane that takes more than a day to use. It doesn't do that.
I mean, we could do both though, because the underlying idea is just I want to have a jump that takes longer than one day. How that happens can occur through multiple different ways. It could be the hyperlane itself caused you to take more than a day, or it could be the method of jumping takes you more than a day. In either case, it's one of those features where it's like we could add it just for the sake of parity with escape velocity for anybody who wants to make an escape velocity port in Endless Sky Engine.
In terms of ship relation, yeah.
If you add it to update pathfinding, yeah, that would be something that would need to be done. Probably not too difficult, just because Pathfinding already looks at the cost of the hyperlane. It looks at the fuel cost. You would now just also add a time cost. Or maybe we just simplify it and make it so that time equals fuel cost. And that way the pathfinding doesn't need to update it at all.
Whoever's asking about Archons is going ham again. Do they have different personalities depending on which you talk to? I
Probably.
mean, yeah. They're a little bit
they
different.
do. They
have like
definitely do.
different histories, different vibes of what area of space we find them in. Would you
Try
consider
talking to
special
them.
pop-ups? Yeah. Would you consider pop-ups upon first entering an Archon, and if you run out of fuel in a system with them, some dialogue asking for fuel? Do you really think a old denizen of the galaxy from hundreds of years ago is going to care to give you fuel?
Yeah.
You are but a peasant in the galactic timeline. They don't care.
Some of them already have conversations that pop up. We just don't
They
need
do
every
refuel
single
you.
one.
Yeah, we don't need to actually like have them like acknowledge it. They'll probably just like do it and
Yeah,
then
sure,
ignore you and
whatever.
forget you existed. This is a good one though. Have any of you guys seen a plugin that was so well made or useful that you consider just making it part of the base game as canon in a way, or canonize it in a way?
No.
Uh,
And I've said this before.
mm,
It's not that I've never seen a good plugin. It's that I think good plugins, like really good plugins, should stay as really good plugins. Just because something is good doesn't mean it needs to become canon / vanilla.
yeah,
Part of allowing good plugins just to remain good plugins is like it shows like, yes, there are plugins out there that are really good and that people can make stuff that should just be like a plugin, you know?
I feel like
The other problem is if something is a good plugin, it's probably also very large, and that just makes
yeah,
it difficult to actually end up adding to the game. Because it might be that there's aspects of the plugin that aren't, even though like it's a good plugin to play, there might be aspects of it that aren't up to snuff for what we're looking for the vanilla game. Story would definitely be the biggest hurdle to overcome.
This is personal opinion. I think some of the best plugins are the best plugins because they do crazy things that vanilla would never do.
That too.
Like that they're so good in their own right, and they might seem like extremely odd against anything in vanilla, but that's what just makes them a really good plugin. Endless Seas, I mean, that's a good example. Everyone like, especially with these 2D spaceship games, it's not uncommon for someone want to make a mod to turn it into land or just a bigger playing field than. I guess not a bigger playing field, it's space, but you know what I mean.
Leaving something
But
great
yeah,
as a plugin denies access to everyone who doesn't use plugins or doesn't have the time for testing them. Well, time for testing them. I mean, if you don't have time to play them as a plugin, then you wouldn't have time to play them as vanilla. In terms of not using plugins, that's what the plugin library would be for, the in-game plugin downloader. Because we said earlier, like, some people probably don't use plugins just because they don't know where to look. We would then, by adding the plugin downloader into the game, then it's very easy for anybody to download a plugin. And the only hurdle at that point would just be you yourself deciding what to and not to download and to not download.
canonizing a plugin by putting it into the vanilla experience, I don't think is how you would resolve those issues. It would be trying to make plugins more accessible.
Testing meaning there are 2,000 plugins. I don't know what's good. Ask. We probably could add some sort of like. I mean, maybe not. I was going to say, like, add some sort of feature to the plugin library that also says, like, oh, this is how many downloads it has. Well, downloads would be easy. But, like, a rating system would probably be more difficult because we wouldn't want to have some method of, like, botting the rating system.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I don't think, though, that adding something to vanilla is the response to saying, oh, there's so many plugins that somebody could have choice paralysis. It's like there's a lot of good Minecraft plugins or mods or whatever you want to call them. There's a lot of good Minecraft mods. That doesn't mean that every good Minecraft mod should become vanilla because Some of the good mods are also mutually exclusive with one another. You might have two mods that are really good, but they can't both exist at the same time. So at that point, I was like, well, what do we choose? You can't really make a decision at that point. So you just end up with the same problem.
Someone submitted a question that was in Twitch chat. Oops, sorry about that. Twitch chat's usually pretty quiet.
Yeah, I haven't seen a single thing since then. Loot Box Dad, first time chat. Have you ever done analysis of player hours played versus play style? For instance, among the 1,000-hour players or 100-hour players, what achievements are they getting most often and which they never bother with? That sort of thing. We don't have analytics. The game doesn't have an internet connection, doesn't require an internet connection. You can download it from any place on the internet. You can download it from people we don't even know about. So we just don't have that type of information, nor will we ever have that type of information. I do not want to add analytics to the game, because then at that point we have to have some sort of privacy policy. It would just be a headache.
The closest thing to that would be just doing surveys, but so little people actually do them. It's not really
Yeah.
quantitative.
Let me check. Do we still only have 3? Okay, we have 4 responses. One person out of everybody watching decided to fill in the feedback box. Thank you to whoever you are.
Will just be able to sell my data? I remember seeing a comment on Steam that called us out for some, like, oh, we're using crypto mining, and it's like, dude, you can see every single thing that the game comes with.
Yeah, it was. I don't even know what that was about. Like, oh, the game is running bad. That means it's a crypto miner. It's like, no, it's not what that means. That means you had like 10,000 ships. Of course, it's gonna run bad.
Maybe pathing or something.
They had a crypto miner, yeah. They just blamed us.
Yeah, Warp's getting ahead to the most recent question. Is there a way to become involved with the lore of the game? Warp says no, it's impossible. He's sarcasm. What kind of a moment do you want? What do you want to do? Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to write it? Do you want to review it? Yeah, like that's a very open-ended question. What do you mean by involved with the lore? But in terms of what Warp listed there, you could talk about it wherever you want on Discord. You could talk about it on GitHub in discussions. You can review it on GitHub in discussions. You can kind of get some little peeks ahead of time on Discord too before it's on GitHub. If you want to write it, I mean, a lot of people like to write lore for the game and content, and that goes in either plugins or having somewhat of an idea of what is in the game as is for lore. So getting a look around at, again, the Discord to GitHub, what already exists in the game. And then if you want to write some lore for the game and see if it fits the game, you can always PR it to GitHub. And yeah. Write it and work with others to write it. Let's see. More people to fix typos, that's the important thing. I love seeing the random PR from like a contributor's name I've never seen before open up and be like changing an A to an E. And it's like, boom, all right, you're in the credits now.
It's that simple.
A 100% of your contributions have been fixing typos. You did it one time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a few people like that.
I mean, also something to think is if you ever like send us questions or just talk in chat with us, like it's not a hard contribution to the game files, but you're still helping contribute to the project by being a part of it. So had to be able to put it on my resume. New question just got submitted. Is there a lore Bible for the game?
No, but we've talked about writing one.
Yes. Actually, in a recent meeting, I gotta post those. I remember Derpy was talking about how we could like start writing down each faction's like current in-game lore, so we have something like visual to go off of, to review, to refer back to, and stuff like that when we're looking at future content.
It wasn't
Yeah,
just lore; it was also like the
outline.
description of the facts, like what we want to do with them and how they're supposed to interact with other factions. Because I
Yes.
think a big problem with the game so far is that whenever we get a new contributor to a certain faction, that that contributor has an idea of the faction in their head that might not actually align with the intentions that we have with that faction or the intentions of the creator of that faction. I won't list specifics, but part of the problem there is just that we don't have anything written down somewhere to say, like, hey, here's the intentions, here's the background of this faction, here's the timeline of things. A lot of lore discussions right now are really just a matter of, well, do you have something, do you have like a mission in the game that you can use as a source of your idea? Otherwise, like it's really up in the air. Um,
Yeah, there's the MZ lore document, but that like half of that is considered not even like even more than half. Like, do we just consider that whole document not really canon? And if it's in the game, it's
yeah.
in the game. If it's not, it's not. Um, Lord Torah. But yeah, I think that'd be a good idea to do eventually, maybe sooner than later too. Because it's also something good to have with everyone asking like how they get involved with the lore, or if they have questions on something that already might be stated in the game. Like for example, the Archon one, if you do talk to all of them, they do have slightly different
Yeah.
personalities. Um,
That would be. This should be a lot of work though.
it
It's
would
like
be.
we would basically be writing missions that aren't even in the game. Like,
Yeah, that'd be a big one for me because like I could tell you exactly how all the relay content's gonna go and end, but I don't want to spoil it.
I don't want. I mean, we would have to for something like this.
Yeah.
They would have to, that would be like the very top of the Bible. Like, hey, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
They should put that
Something
at the
I
top of
think
the real Bible too, by the way.
Abby chapter 1. When I am like when I can see it, I don't know. Does it exist yet? You sent me the link, dude. I don't remember half the stuff that happens. If you have it like in a place where you actually want to like PR it and get it like going soon, go ahead and send the link to me again. Otherwise, I do want to get onto for one of the most recent things. I want to get to Dairy's successors PR first. Also, the Northern Anarchist region, because I know there's more discussion happening about that. We already have one anarchist. We had one anarchist. The anarchist we have now is Anarchist 2. We don't talk about Anarchist 1. Quark Chapter 1 when? Never. Quark Chapter 1 is actually already engraved into your mind when you start as a pilot because you already know that they exist in their open human space.
All right, we should wrap up here because we're an hour and a half
Yeah.
in. Well, we'll do the last question that's submitted, and then No more submitted questions. We won't read any more if you try and get any more in last second, but we'll do a lightning round for questions in the Discord chat as we usually do. That one doesn't count. I told you already. It's not. They're both canon, all right? But anyway, the last question was, how do the devs feel about questions that have been asked over and over again in the campfires? I mean, we usually just will quickly say we answered that previously and then give us a quick answer. Warp says he hates them. Like, really hates them.
They suck? No, I mean, I think they're fine because you never know who's new to the.
Yeah. It's not always the same people, so we might not go as super in depth every single time, but it's not like terrible. Except for the ones that we know it's the same person asking over and over again.
Yeah.
Those we've kind of stopped answering. All right, but lightning round. Can we ban Azure? We'll think about it.
Good list. Good line.
There should be a bit of starting lore that's optional when you begin a game. Read the pilot's manual. The player's manual. It's nice that lore is introduced organically in universe and missions rather than being dumped in you like a ton of bricks when you first load the game up, says Doom. I agree. I don't feel like there's actually that much we need to give you. We already do give you a little bit with the first mission, and if you check your logbook, there is some info about each of the factions that you are likely to interact with in human space.
I got a question regarding that then.
Go ahead.
With what you just said, what's like the new idea for the logbook changes you have in that PR?
Yeah.
Do you think there might be like a little bit of a blurb at the start of everything then?
Start of everything, like what?
Like when you start a pilot, like what about the current state of human space or something like that? Or is it more like?
I'm saying that's already there. You already get log entries at the very start of the game.
I was thinking about expanding it, but yeah, I kind of agree with doing there.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we could add more. I have an issue open that says that we should add more. There's a lot of information on the wiki. I think that it would actually be helpful to have in the game itself. And my idea was you finish the tutorial with James, and at the very end of the tutorial, he hands you a pilot's manual. And the pilot's manual literally just includes the player's manual, but you can read it in game. Doom says, I'm close to banning green. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but I'm serious. If you add a color code to helpfully display information and it's a scale of red, orange, yellow, green, or just red and green, I will, A, be unable to read it, and B, decapitate you with a plastic fork. Okay. Noted. The game is already very text-heavy at the start, which I think can be a turn-off for new players. We have had negative reviews on Steam that have complained about the amount of reading they had to do. It's like, dude, you can see the store page. We don't make that a secret. Is reading.
Where's my pew pew? Why do I see a book?
Zoomer moment says sure, yeah. Blasina says players should be able to write their own logs. That's been requested for a while. I think thanks to the changes from the Weird Nut with the text editing, we're probably closer to that now. The biggest issue with adding something like that for the longest time has been that anytime you have a text field in the game that you can type into, you can't click somewhere in the middle of the text to change where your cursor is located. If you wanted to change a character in the middle, you had to delete everything after it, change that character, and then retype everything again. But that's no longer the case. Will no longer be the case after we take the Weird Nuts changes and put them in every single text field in the game. Doom says, we're developing a game, but we've also expanded into other areas. Literacy programs, preserving our beloved covered bridges, world dominance. Yeah.
Can this guy play Doom?
Not yet. Tom is working on it, if I know anything about him. SirDerpyHorse says cursor movement actually a huge update. Yeah. Right now it only exists on the new quantity drop down field we're adding to the shops, which I guess I'll tease that for the next update. If you've played 0.11.0 or the latest update 0.11.1, you know there's that gap in the shops next to the leave button. We're adding a place there where you can type in exactly how many of an outfit or ship you want to buy. Because right now you either have to like spam the buy button or you have to use Control Alt and Shift to buy multiples of whatever the item is. But if you want an exact number, you can now type it in and just get that exact number. I haven't played the game since May 2026. I haven't showered since 2024. You mean 2025? No. Can we add images to the logbook for plugins? That's already possible. You can thank Zobes for that. I'm pretty sure that's who added that. You can add images to the logbook. Check the wiki. I think it should be described in the creating missions page.
Just Yamato Cannon. I've seen a plugin of that somewhere.
Soon. Not sure what that is. Is that the Black Knight? All right, anything else? Let's give it another 3 minutes. So we'll be have been going for an hour 45. 3 more minutes. Quick questions. I can't read. When will text readers be added? Whenever somebody adds them. I don't know. I'm not working on it. When are we releasing Endless Sky Copilot, the new Endless Sky AI assistant? It's been in there the whole time. It's called the autopilot on your ship. My updates to add multiple planet/station graphics didn't get into the release notes. I'm not sure what update you're referring to. Unless you're referring to the landscape images, in which case I definitely saw those in the release notes. Let me check. Change log, Control F for landscape. Spaceports can now have their own landscape image distinct from the planet landscape, and planets can now list multiple landscapes, and one will be chosen at random on each landing. All right, well, we're not really getting any rapid fire questions, so I'm just going to end it here. So thank you, everybody, for showing up to today's Campfire chat. As I said at the start, we do these the first Saturday of every month. So if you get pinged and hate it, just know if it's the first Saturday, you're going to get pinged. Also, you can mute pings. Discord lets you mute pings. You can mute pings. The next the next Campfire chat will be the 6th of June. We have a submission box that you can submit questions to if you do not think you will be there at the time that we do these. We do it at the same time, typically, maybe an hour later, every first Saturday. What else? Play the beta update. Play 0.11.1 if you haven't. If you have, we have the feedback box in the announcement, at the bottom of the announcement, in the announcements room. Please use the feedback box. We still only have 4 responses. We do read these. What else? The next stable update is going to be in a couple months. So if you're not playing on the beta branch, just wait a bit and you will be able to play with all the new stuff, but without all the bugs. Anyone else want to say anything?
Anything.
All right.
Have a nice day.
Time. See ya. Copy me.
L.